Emma Hayes was 8 years old, and she did not run when the sky turned dark. She was gathering small stones near the colony wall when the first shadow covered the ground. The shadow was so large that it blocked the sun completely. Emma stopped moving and looked up. Her brother Lucas, who was 7, grabbed her arm and pulled back toward the houses. "Emma, something is wrong," Lucas said. His voice was scared. Emma did not answer. She was looking at the ships in the sky. They were not like any human ship she had ever seen in pictures. These ships were organic-looking, like living things made of dark metal and strange light. The ships glowed with colors that hurt the eyes to look at directly. They moved slowly, but their size made them look threatening even at that speed. The colony's alarm system started to sound. It was a sound that Emma had heard in emergency drills, but this was different. This sound was real, and it meant danger was coming. People began to run from their workstations and homes toward the bunker entrances. Emma's mother, Claire Taylor, appeared from the medical center building. She was wearing her work coat and moving quickly. When she saw Emma and Lucas, she moved faster. "Kids, come now," Claire called out. "We need to move to the bunker immediately." Emma picked up her small collection of stones and stood up calmly. She was not panicking like the other children around her. Lucas was afraid, but he did not run ahead. He stayed close to his sister as they walked quickly toward the bunker entrance. The colony was a neat place built carefully over 15 years. There were farms where people grew food, water cleaning stations, small houses made of strong materials, and communication towers. Everything was organized and planned. But right now, everything felt fragile and small compared to the massive ships descending from the sky. The bunker was deep underground. It had been built with strong walls and doors that could close and lock. Inside, families were gathering, and people were speaking in quiet, nervous voices. Emma saw old people, young people, and many children. Everyone was scared except Emma. She was thinking about something. Why did they tell us they were coming? Emma asked her mother. Claire was helping other medical staff organize supplies in the bunker. She stopped and looked at her daughter. "What do you mean, Emma?" "The ships came slowly. They gave us time to see them and move people. If they wanted to destroy the colony, why not just do it without warning?" Emma's face was serious and thoughtful. Before Claire could answer, a loud voice came through the communication system. It was Colonel Henry Davies, the colony commander. He spoke with a calm, controlled voice, but underneath, people could hear tension. "All personnel to designated stations. All civilians remain in bunkers. We have a situation developing. I repeat, remain calm and stay in your bunker locations." Emma's father, Captain James Taylor, was in the command center. Emma had not seen him since the alarm started. She knew what his job was. He was responsible for military defense. Right now, her father was doing important work somewhere above the bunker, preparing for something that Emma did not completely understand yet. Emma sat on a bench with Lucas. Other children were crying or sleeping. Some families were holding each other. But Emma was watching the closed-circuit monitor that showed the colony's ground cameras. She could see the sky. She could see the alien ships landing in a careful formation near the edge of the colony. Something came out of the biggest ship. It was not a creature. It was a machine, a drone shaped like a disc with multiple sensors and cameras. The drone moved slowly across the colony ground, and it was clearly taking in every detail. It was watching, observing, recording. The communication system crackled again. This time, it was a voice that was not human. The translation systems worked quickly, turning strange sounds into English words. "Humans of this colony, we are the Krell Empire. Your settlement has resources we need. Surrender all technology, all resources, and all people with useful skills. Surrender immediately. You have until darkness falls to make your choice. Surrender, or we will destroy you completely. This is your only warning." The voice was cold and certain. The alien had no doubt that the colony would surrender. The Krell knew their power. They knew their technology and their weapons. They knew that humans were primitive and weak compared to them. Emma felt her mother's hand on her shoulder. Claire was holding Lucas with her other arm. Many people in the bunker began to cry. Many people felt that this was the end. The Krell were not like human enemies. The Krell had conquered entire planets. The Krell had never lost, but Emma was still thinking about something. She was thinking about the slow descent of the ships. She was thinking about the warning they had given. She was thinking about the drone that was observing instead of attacking. "Mom," Emma said quietly. "They are not sure." "Not sure about what, Emma?" Claire asked. "They are not sure if they can beat us," Emma said. Claire wanted to tell her daughter that this thinking was wrong. Claire wanted to say that the Krell were certainly, absolutely sure. But looking at her daughter's face, Claire saw something that made her stop. Emma was not afraid. Emma was thinking logically. Emma was looking at facts that other people had missed. "Why do you think that?" Claire asked. "Because if they were sure, they would not have told us," Emma said. "They would have just attacked. They gave us a warning. They gave us time." That means they are not completely sure. In the bunker, some adults heard what Emma said. Some of them began to think about her words. The words spread quietly from person to person. A child had seen something that the adults had missed. Above the bunker, in the command center, Captain James Taylor received orders. He was going to lead a team to meet the alien commander face to face. This was a very dangerous task. This might be a suicide mission, but it was necessary to understand what the Krell wanted and to buy time for the colony to prepare. James Taylor was a brave man. He had joined the military to protect people. He had come to this colony to help build something new and safe for humans. Now, he was going to walk toward the alien commander with only 2 soldiers beside him. He did not know that his daughter, sitting in the bunker below, had already provided the most important piece of information. Emma had seen the truth. The Krell were not completely confident. And in a conflict with beings who were desperate and willing to do anything to survive, even a small amount of doubt could become a weapon. The darkness was beginning to fall on the colony. Inside the bunker, Emma held her brother's hand. Outside, Captain James Taylor was preparing to walk into danger. And above them all, the Krell ships waited in orbit, ready to begin their assault. But something had changed. Emma's words had changed something, even if nobody knew it yet. The command center was filled with quiet, serious voices. People looked at maps, checked weapons, and monitored the alien ships. Colonel Henry Davies stood at the center of everything, making decisions that would save or destroy the colony. He had been in military service for 30 years, and he had never faced anything like this. Captain James Taylor was putting on his protective gear. It would not stop an alien weapon, but it made him feel less helpless. His 2 soldiers, Lieutenant Mark Cooper and Sergeant David Green, were checking their own equipment. They all knew this was dangerous. They all knew they might not come back from this meeting. "Radio check," James said into his communication device. "We hear you, Captain," came the response from the command center. "All recording systems are active. We are monitoring everything." James nodded. He looked at his 2 soldiers. "Remember, we are here to gather information. We are here to show them that humans can be reasonable. We show no fear, and we show no weakness." They walked toward the outer airlock. The colony's exterior doors were made of thick metal that could withstand pressure and small weapons fire. As they went through the airlock, James thought about his family. He thought about Emma and Lucas waiting in the bunker. He thought about Claire trying to keep everyone calm in the medical section. He pushed those thoughts away. He needed to focus on the mission, The ground outside was cold. The sun was low in the sky, and the shadows were long. The Krell ships were sitting on the colony ground like insects waiting to feed. The largest ship, the command vessel, opened a door, and a ramp began to descend. The aliens came down the ramp slowly and deliberately. There were 4 of them, and they were nothing like humans. They were at least 7 feet tall, with bodies covered in dark brown chitinous armor that looked like it was part of their skin. Their limbs were thick and powerful, and they moved with the confidence of predators. Their heads were large and angular, with multiple eyes that could see in different directions. Their mouths were filled with teeth designed for cutting flesh. The leader was the largest of them all. He was named Vexter, and he was the commander of this invasion force. His armor was marked with patterns that showed his rank and his victories. He had conquered 17 planets. He had never lost a battle. Vexter stalked in front of Captain James Taylor. He was more than a foot taller than the human. When he spoke, his voice came through translation devices, turning alien sounds into human words. "I am Vexter, master of the Krell Conquest Fleet. You are the human leader of this settlement? I am Captain James Taylor. I speak for this colony," James said. His voice was steady. Vexter made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You speak for your colony, but you do not control your own fate. Your fate is already decided. The Krell Empire is vast and powerful. Your colony is small and primitive. Surrender now, and some of you will live as workers. Resist, and all of you will die. We want to understand what you want," James said. "Why you need our colony? What do you want from us?" Vexter gestured to the other aliens with him. They moved forward and began scanning the colony structures with handheld devices. They were taking measurements and collecting data. "Your planet has resources that the Krell need," Vexter said. "Metals, water, energy sources. Your technology, while primitive, has some useful applications. And your labor force can be put to work. This is a simple calculation. The Krell take what we need. Weak species surrender and are absorbed. Strong species are destroyed. You are weak. You will surrender." James could see the truth in Vexter's eyes. The alien truly believed this. The Krell had conquered so many species that they had no doubt. They saw themselves as unstoppable. They saw humans as already defeated. "What if we do not surrender?" James asked. One of the other Krell soldiers took a step forward aggressively. He raised his arm, and a weapon appeared in his hand, pointing directly at James. The soldier's movement was so fast that James's soldiers reached for their weapons, but James held up his hand. He did not move. He did not show fear. Vexter raised his own hand slightly, and the soldier lowered the weapon. Vexter was looking at James with something that might have been respect. "If you do not surrender, we will destroy everything. We will land our full force. We will burn your structures. We will kill everyone who fights. We will kill everyone who hides. We will kill everyone who is not useful." This is what happens to species that resist the Krell. But as Vexter spoke these words, James noticed something. The alien was telling him the attack plan before it happened. The Krell were so confident in their power that they did not feel the need to hide their strategy. They believed no one could do anything to stop them. "I understand," James said. "We will discuss your demands. We will give you our answer before darkness falls completely." Vexter turned away. "Your discussion means nothing. Your answer is already decided. We will destroy you, or you will surrender. There is no other outcome." The Krell went back toward their ships. James and his soldiers walked back toward the colony. When they entered the airlock, the command center was waiting for them. "Did you get everything?" James asked. "We recorded everything," Colonel Davies said. "We have images of the aliens, their weapons, their scanning equipment. We have their exact words and their attitude." James made his way to the command center. The other military officers were gathered around maps and monitors. They were trying to understand the Krell weapons and capabilities. "They are completely confident," James said to the group. "They have conquered 17 planets. They believe there is no way they can lose to humans." "That confidence might be a weakness," one of the officers said. But before anyone could continue this thought, a message came through the communication system. It was from the bunker. Claire Taylor was requesting that Captain Taylor come down to speak with Emma. James was surprised. He went directly to the bunker. When he entered, Claire was waiting for him. Emma was sitting on a bench, looking at the monitor that showed the alien activity outside. "Emma has something she thinks you should know," Claire said. James sat down beside his daughter. "What is it, Emma?" Emma pointed at the monitor. "Look at how many soldiers they brought out of the ship." James counted. There were only 4 aliens. 4 soldiers and the equipment for scanning and mapping. "There are probably more in the ship," James said. "But why bring only 4? Emma asked. "If they are so strong and we are so weak, why not bring more? Why take the risk that a few soldiers could be hurt by us?" James felt something shift inside him. His 8-year-old daughter had seen something important. The Krell were not invincible. They were careful. They were testing the humans' response. They were being cautious despite their confidence. "You are right, Emma," James said. "That means we can hurt them," Emma said. "That means they can be beaten." James held his daughter close. He thought about the Krell commander's absolute certainty. He thought about the weakness hidden inside that certainty. The Krell had never faced an enemy that was truly desperate. The Krell had never faced people fighting for their children. When Captain James Taylor returned to the command center, everything began to change. The colony's defense strategy shifted from surrender to survival. Emma's observation had given them a weapon more valuable than guns or explosives. It had given them hope. The emergency council met in the central conference room of the command center. They had less than 2 hours before the deadline that the Krell had given them. The room was filled with military officers, civilian leaders, engineers, and scientists. Outside, the Krell ships were moving into attack positions. Colonel Henry Davies opened the meeting with a simple question. "Can we win?" No one answered immediately. The silence was heavy. Finally, Lieutenant Commander Robert Hayes spoke. He was the head of the colony's defense systems. "Sir, we have limited weapons. Our military personnel are trained but small in number. The Krell have advanced technology and military experience across dozens of wars. Mathematically, we cannot win in a direct confrontation. So we surrender," said Thomas Brown, the colony's chief scientist. "If we surrender," said Dr. Victoria Martinez, the head of medical services, "we become slaves. They will take our best people for labor, and they will kill those who are not useful. Our children will not have a future." The debate continued. Some people argued for surrender to save lives. Others argued that surrender meant the death of everything that the colony had worked for. No one had a solution that worked. The colony seemed trapped between certain death or certain slavery. Captain James Taylor sat quietly, thinking about what Emma had told him. The Krell were not invincible. The Krell were not completely confident. But how did you use that knowledge against an enemy with overwhelming power? Suddenly, there was movement near the command center doors. A small figure had slipped past the guards. Emma had escaped from the bunker. She was walking toward her father with determination. "Emma, you should be in the bunker," Colonel Davies said, surprised. "I know something," Emma said. Her voice was clear and serious, even though she was only 8 years old. "You are all thinking wrong." "What do you mean, Emma?" Her father asked. "You are all thinking like humans thinking about humans. But the Krell are not humans. The Krell think they are perfect and strong. They have never lost. They think everyone will do what they expect. One of the senior officers, Captain Marcus Stone, leaned forward. "Keep going, Emma. What are you saying?" "If we do what they expect, we lose," Emma said. "If we surrender, they win. If we fight like soldiers in a war, they win because they are better at war. But we are humans. We think differently. We do things that make no sense to them." Claire came into the room, out of breath from running after her daughter. She was about to apologize for Emma's interruption, but Colonel Davies held up his hand. "Let the girl speak," the colonel said. Emma continued. "The honey badger is small. It is smaller than the lion and the bear, but it kills them anyway. It does not fight the way they expect. It is crazy and mean and does things that make no sense." Captain Taylor understood. His daughter was describing a strategy based not on strength, but on unpredictability. The Krell expected conventional military resistance. The Krell expected organized soldiers in organized units. The Krell expected logical, rational behavior. What if we do not fight the way they expect? James said slowly, "What if every person in this colony becomes a soldier, but not a soldier in the way they understand?" The room became electric with sudden energy. People began to talk quickly, ideas flowing fast. Engineer Robert Gray spoke. "The river. We could redirect the river toward their landing zone. They would not expect us to destroy our own water supply. But if we cut off their water, we hurt them more than we hurt ourselves. We have stored water. They do not." "The communication systems," said Victoria Martinez. "We could mimic their own signals, create false orders, confuse their command structure." "The weather," said Thomas Brown. "Kepler 442b has terrible storms. We know how to predict them and avoid them. The Krell do not. We could use the environment itself as a weapon." More ideas came. Ideas for disruption, for misdirection, for using the Krell's own assumptions against them. Slowly, a plan began to form. It was not a plan for defeating the Krell through strength. It was a plan for defeating them through chaos and adaptation. "It is extremely dangerous," Colonel Davies said. "Many of us could die." "If we surrender, we die," said Dr. Martinez. "If we try this, we might live. And our children will know that we tried everything." The vote was quick, unanimous. The colony would not surrender. The colony would fight. The next hour was the most organized chaos the colony had ever experienced. Every person had a job. Farmers who understood the water systems began to work on the plan to redirect the river. Engineers worked on ways to disrupt the Krell communications. Scientists prepared information about the planet's dangerous storms. People who had never held a weapon prepared to defend their homes. Emma was brought to the command center. Colonel Davies asked her to help with communications. Her job was simple but important. She would listen to radio messages and help relay information quickly and accurately. Emma put on a communication headset and took her seat. She was no longer a child playing in the colony. She was a person with responsibility. At the bunker, Lucas was in the medical area because he had a small injury from earlier. He watched the activity around him. He watched adults moving with purpose and courage. He saw his mother Claire preparing medical supplies for what was coming. He did not fully understand, but he understood that something terrible and important was about to happen. Captain James Taylor stood before his daughter. He put his hands on her shoulders. "The Krell will attack soon," he said. "This will be very dangerous. Everyone will need to be brave." "I know," Emma said. "We are the honey badger colony now." James smiled sadly. His 8-year-old daughter had understood something that many adults had not. Strength was not about size or weapons. Strength was about being willing to do what was necessary to protect the people you loved. The Krell ships began to move. They were beginning their final descent. The colony had less than 30 minutes to prepare. Emma looked at her father. "Will you come back?" She asked. James wanted to promise her that he would. He wanted to say yes, but he was honest with his daughter. "I do not know," he said. "I will try very hard to come back. But if I do not, I want you to know that I am proud of you. I want you to know that you helped save this colony. I want you to know that love and family are the most important things in the world." Emma held her father tight. She did not cry. She was thinking about the honey badger, small and fierce and determined. The colony prepared for war. Not a war of soldiers in uniforms, but a war of desperate people protecting their children and their future. A war where a small 8-year-old girl had taught everyone what courage truly meant. The ground began to shake as the Krell combat units descended from the command ships. They were massive machines, larger than buildings, designed for destruction and conquest. They walked on thick mechanical legs that left deep marks in the earth. Their armor could withstand human weapons. Their weapons could destroy anything humans had built. The Krell commander Vexter had made his decision. The humans had not surrendered. Therefore, they would be destroyed. The Krell invasion force was now committed to complete annihilation of the colony. 300 colonists against an entire Krell military division. The mathematics of survival were brutal and clear, but the humans were no longer thinking mathematically. They were thinking like the honey badger. Robert Gray stood at the water control station with 5 other engineers. They had worked for 15 years to build a complex water system that brought clean water from the mountain, river to the colony. Now, they were about to destroy part of it. Gray looked at his team. "Open the channels," he said calmly. The engineers moved switches and opened valves. Water that normally flowed slowly and carefully through the system was suddenly released in a torrent. The river, redirected by clever engineering and careful timing, began to flow directly toward the Krell landing zone. The aliens did not notice immediately. They were focused on moving their combat units into assault formation. But within minutes, the ground near them became muddy and soft. The massive machines, which were designed for solid ground, began to sink deeper with every step. Their movement became slower and more difficult. Vexter realized what was happening, but it was too late to stop it. He could not understand why the humans would destroy their own water supply. To Krell logic, this made no sense. The humans were harming themselves. This was irrational behavior. But this irrationality was exactly what made it effective. Meanwhile, in the communications bunker, Victoria Martinez was executing the second part of the plan. She had studied the Krell communication frequencies from the first encounter. The colony's computers had found the pattern in their signals. Victoria and her team were now broadcasting false orders using Krell military command codes to the Krell soldiers in the field. The orders seemed to be coming from their commanders. The orders were contradictory and confusing. One unit was told to move to the north. Another unit received orders to hold position. A supply convoy was given coordinates that led it directly into the colony's hazard zones. The Krell military organization, which normally operated with perfect precision, began to fragment into confused, poorly coordinated units in the colony's defensive positions. Humans who had never fought before took aim with whatever weapons they had. Some had guns. Most had improvised weapons. But they were fighting for something primal and powerful. They were fighting to protect their homes and their children. The first clash came when a Krell unit tried to force its way through the northern gate. The humans had collapsed the buildings near the gate, creating an obstacle that was difficult to navigate. The Krell soldiers, expecting an organized military defense, encountered instead waves of civilians who moved like chaos itself. When one group was pushed back, another would appear from a different direction. When the aliens would advance, They would suddenly encounter obstacles that made movement difficult and dangerous. Captain James Taylor was in the field, coordinating the human resistance. He moved between different positions, helping organize the scattered defense. He had studied military strategy his entire life, but he had never seen anything like this. The colony was not a military unit. It was an organism, fighting for survival. One of the Krell combat machines tried to break through the southern perimeter. Its massive weapons destroyed buildings. Its armor was impervious to most human weapons. But the humans had planned for this. Engineers had prepared the ground. The Krell machine took 2 steps forward and suddenly collapsed as the earth beneath it gave way. The engineers had loosened the ground with controlled explosions, and the heavy machine sank partially into a pit. Its weapons could not aim downward at the enemies scattered around it. Back in the command center, Colonel Davies was watching the battlefield on multiple monitors. The situation was chaotic and violent. Humans were being killed. Property was being destroyed. The colony was being torn apart. But the Krell advance was being slowed. The alien military machine, which had conquered 17 planets, was encountering something it could not predict or control. Emma was still at her communication station. She was relaying messages between different groups of defenders. She was young, but her mind was clear and fast. She organized information and helped to coordinate the scattered resistance. Around her, adults were managing the defense, but Emma's clear voice on the radio helped keep them connected. In the medical bunker, Claire Taylor was treating the wounded. Each injured person who came through the doors was a reminder of the cost of resistance. But each person she helped to survive was a victory. Lucas was helping her, carrying supplies and comforting wounded colonists. The 7-year-old boy was learning what courage meant by watching his mother work without hesitation. The battle was not one battle. It was a series of small conflicts happening across the entire colony. In one place, humans used fire and smoke to confuse the Krell warriors. In another place, they used the planet's natural terrain to create ambush points. They used knowledge that came from years of living on Kepler 442b. They used the environment itself as a weapon. Krell warrior named Corax was leading a unit through the central colony area when he encountered something unexpected. A human, a farmer named Michael Collins, stood directly in his path with nothing but a tool used for digging soil. The human had no chance against the alien's superior strength and weaponry. But Michael Collins did not retreat. He stood there, blocking the path, and his presence slowed the Krell advance just enough for other defenders to move into position. Corax killed the farmer easily. But the moment it took to eliminate one human was a moment where Krell units elsewhere were being disrupted, confused, and slowed down. The colony was not trying to win battles. The colony was trying to survive, one moment at a time. As the fighting continued into the night, something shifted. The Krell were still powerful. The Krell were still winning individual battles. But the colony was not being conquered. The humans were not surrendering. Against all logic and probability, the humans were still fighting. Vexter stood in his command center and observed the battle with growing concern. He had conquered 17 planets. He had never encountered resistance like this. The humans were fighting with a desperation that made them dangerous beyond their actual strength. They were willing to sacrifice themselves for their community. They were willing to lose everything to avoid being enslaved. The Krell commander realized something that he had not understood before. Strength was not just about weapons and numbers. Strength was about will. And the humans had will in abundance. Emma, still in the command center, heard her father's voice on the radio. He was calling for a coordinated defense in the western sector. His voice was tired but determined. Emma heard the love in his voice. She heard his commitment to protecting the colony and everyone in it. She understood that humans could not be conquered by force alone. She understood that the Krell's certainty of victory had been their weakness all along. The aliens had never fought people who were willing to lose everything for love. The night deepened, and the honey badger colony fought on. The battle had been going on for hours. The colony was damaged. Buildings were destroyed. The water system was destroyed. But the Krell had lost something that they had never lost before. They had lost momentum. Vexter stood in his command center and reviewed the information. 3 of his combat units were damaged or immobilized. His supply lines had been disrupted by the false communication orders. His soldiers were facing an enemy that did not behave like any military force in the galaxy. This was not a war. This was chaos. This was survival by another name. The Krell commander made a decision that came from desperation and rage. He could not lose. The Krell did not lose. If the colony would not surrender, and if conventional military tactics were not working, then he would use the ultimate solution. He would destroy everything. Vexter gave the order for a complete and total assault. Every remaining Krell weapon would be brought to bear. Every military unit would attack simultaneously. The colony would be burned. The population would be eliminated. There would be no more humans, no more resistance, and no more doubt about Krell superiority. In the command center, Colonel Davies received the surveillance data that showed the incoming assault. He watched the Krell weapons being moved into firing positions. He watched the alien soldiers forming into assault groups designed to overwhelm the colony's defensive positions. He calculated the odds and knew they were impossible. He made the call to Captain James Taylor. "We have incoming heavy assault in 5 minutes. Full Krell force. Estimated casualties will be almost total if we do not find a way to stop it." Captain Taylor was in the field, covered in dust and blood and exhaustion. He had been fighting without rest for hours. He was running on determination and the knowledge that his family was depending on him. He listened to the colonel's message and understood what it meant. "How much time before they fire?" he asked. "Approximately 4 minutes," Davies said. James made his decision. It was the kind of decision that fathers make when their children's lives are on the line. It was a decision that no one wanted to make, but that one person had to make. "I'm going to the Krell Command Center," James said. "I am going to try to stop this assault from inside their ship." "That is a suicide mission," Davies said. "Yes," James agreed. "But it is the only mission that might work." James gathered 2 soldiers. They moved through the destruction of the colony toward the command ship. The aliens did not see them at first because the ship's attention was on the assault preparation. When they did see the humans, the Krell warriors moved to intercept them, but the humans were fighting not to win, but to reach the command center. They fought through the alien soldiers, losing 1 soldier but continuing forward. Lieutenant Cooper was killed by a Krell warrior, but his death bought enough time for James and Sergeant Green to reach the ship's entrance. They moved through corridors that were not designed for human biology. The ship was vast and complicated. Sergeant Green was killed by automated defense systems. Captain James Taylor was alone, but he was still moving forward. In the bunker, Emma heard her father's voice on the radio one final time. He was telling her that he loved her. He was telling her to be brave. He was telling her that she had made him proud. Emma's small face did not show fear. She was thinking about the honey badger. She was thinking about her father facing impossible odds. She was thinking about what courage really meant. She took off her communication headset and stood up. Around her, adults were managing the desperate defense. But Emma had realized something. Her job was not to relay messages anymore. Her job was to help the colony survive. She moved through the bunker quickly. She began organizing the youngest children into a safe group. She helped move medical supplies to where they were needed. She worked with the intensity and focus of someone much older than 8 years old in the medical area. Claire Taylor was trying to save the lives of the people coming through her doors. Her hands were steady even though her heart was broken. Her husband was on a suicide mission, and she could do nothing to stop it except continue to save the people he was trying to protect. Captain James Taylor reached the Krull Command Center. He was exhausted and wounded, but he was still moving. Vexter was there, ready to give the final order for a total assault. The two leaders stood facing each other. "Why do you continue?" Vexter asked, genuinely confused by human behavior. "Your cause is lost. Your colony will be destroyed." "What do you hope to achieve?" "I hope to save my people," James said. "I hope to save my children." Something in those words reached through the aliens' understanding of warfare and strategy and touched something deeper. Vexter had fought in wars his entire life. He had conquered planets, but he had never been a child. He had never had parents who would die to protect him. He had never known what that kind of love meant. James pulled a weapon and fired at the command console. The console exploded, and alarms began to sound. The assault order was interrupted. The weapon systems that had been ready to fire on the colony became inactive. Vexter had a choice. He could kill this human. He could repair the systems and give the order again. He could still destroy the colony. But something had shifted inside him. He had seen something in the human leader's eyes that he had not expected to see. He had seen a parent willing to die for their child. The Krull commander lowered his weapon. He signaled his remaining soldiers to stand down. He looked at Captain James Taylor, wounded and exhausted but still standing. "You are correct," Vexter said. "I have been mistaken about your species. The Krull do not understand what you have shown me today. We do not understand the power that comes from protecting those we love. We do not understand the strength that comes from desperation and hope and family. What happens now?" James asked. "Now," Vexter said, "we withdraw. The Krull will report to the Krull Empire that humans are not to be conquered by force. We will report that humanity is a species that must be approached with respect. We will report that humans are dangerous not because of weapons or technology, but because they are willing to do anything to protect each other." The Krull ships began to deactivate their weapons. The assault that would have destroyed the colony was called off. The surviving Krull soldiers began to withdraw. In the command center, Colonel Davies could not believe what the sensors were showing him. The Krull were leaving. The assault had been stopped. "Captain Taylor," Davies said into the radio, "come home." But there was no answer. In the bunker, Emma waited for her father. She waited with hope that slowly turned into understanding. Her father might not be coming back, but he had saved them all. The Krull ships lifted off from the colony ground. They rose slowly and deliberately, not fleeing in panic, but leaving with deliberate purpose. Within hours, they had entered orbit. Within a day, they had jumped to faster-than-light travel and disappeared into the galaxy. The colony waited in silence. No one believed they had survived until the last Krull ship was gone from the sky. Emma stood at the observation window in the command center. She watched the ships leave. Around her, people were beginning to understand that they were alive. People were beginning to cry and laugh and hold each other. But Emma was thinking about her. Father. Captain James Taylor was found in the Krull command center by the rescue team that Colonel Davies sent. Immediately after the Krull withdrawal, he was alive, but barely. The Krull medical technology, which was advanced beyond human understanding, had kept him from dying of his wounds. He had a broken arm, internal injuries, and burns covering part of his body. But he was alive. When James was brought back to the colony medical center, the first person he asked for was Emma. "Is my daughter okay?" he asked through the pain. Claire Taylor was there, working to stabilize her husband. She smiled through her tears. She is more than okay. She is the bravest person I have ever known. She has been helping everyone since the moment you left." James rested after surgery. His wounds were serious, but human medical technology could handle them. Over the following days, he slowly began to recover. When he was able to sit up in a medical bed, Emma came to see him. She did not run to him or throw her arms around him. She walked carefully and sat beside him on the bed. She took his good hand in both of hers. "You came back," she said. "I told you I would try," James said. "I tried very hard." "The Krull commander let you go," Emma said. "I heard the report." "Vexter let you go on purpose." James nodded. "He did. I think I said something that he understood, even though he was an alien and I was a human. I think I said something about being a parent, about protecting children. And I think something in that touched him." Emma thought about this. She thought about the fact that humans and aliens were different, but perhaps not in all the ways that mattered. "You are brave," she told her father. "But I am brave too. I helped organize the colony's defense. I helped coordinate messages. I kept Lucas safe." "I know," James said. "Colonel Davies told me. You became a leader when you were only 8 years old. That is something I did not have the courage to do at your age. You made everyone brave." Lucas came to see his father that evening. He was mostly recovered from the injury that had happened during the evacuation. He climbed onto the bed carefully and lay against his father's good side. James put his arm around him and held him close. Claire stood in the doorway, watching her family together. Around them, the colony was beginning the slow process of rebuilding. Teams of people were clearing rubble and assessing damage. The water system would take months to repair. Many buildings would need to be reconstructed. Several colonists had been killed in the fighting, but the colony would survive. The people would rebuild. The children would grow up in a colony that had fought against impossible odds and won. Over the following weeks, the story of Emma Hayes spread throughout the colony. The story of the 8-year-old girl who had asked the right questions and helped save everyone. The story of a child who did not run when danger came, but instead stood up with courage. Children who had been afraid before began to be brave. Adults who had doubted the colony's future began to rebuild with purpose. The honey badger colony became a symbol of human resilience and human determination. Captain James Taylor recovered slowly but steadily. Within 2 months, he was able to walk without help. Within 3 months, he returned to active duty. But he was a different person. He had faced an alien commander in combat and had seen the moment when understanding crossed the barrier between species. He was promoted to colonel and became the head of the colony's defense strategy. But more importantly, he became an advocate for understanding between humans and other species. He knew that the galaxy was full of advanced civilizations. He knew that many of them would be curious about humanity. He knew that how humans presented themselves would matter. Colonel Davies retired from active service. He gave a speech at a ceremony where he praised Emma Hayes publicly. He spoke about how a child's clarity of thinking had saved them all. He spoke about how the colony's greatest strength had not come from weapons or military training, but from the willingness of ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Emma did not like the attention. She was still an 8-year-old girl in most ways. She still played with Lucas. She still liked gathering stones. But she was also aware that something inside her had changed. She had looked at an impossible situation and had found a way to see possibility. She had spoken truth to adults, and they have listened. She had learned that age and size did not determine whether someone could make a difference. 6 months after the Krull invasion, Emma stood at the colony's observation post with her father. The sun was setting over the alien landscape of Kepler 442b. The sky was green and orange, colors that no Earth sky would ever produce. "Do you think they will tell other species about us?" Emma asked. James considered the question carefully. He thought about Vexter standing in the command center, realizing that humans were different from any species the Krell had ever encountered. "Yes," James said. "I believe they will. I believe they will tell stories about the colony that fought back. They will tell stories about humans who loved their children more than they feared death. They will tell stories about a species that was willing to fail rather than surrender. Will other species attack us?" Emma asked. "Possibly," James said honestly. "But now they will know that we are not easy to defeat. They will know that we are small and we are primitive by the standards of the galaxy. But they will also know that we have something that many advanced species do not have. We have love. We have family. We have the will to survive." Emma nodded slowly. She was thinking about all the people in the colony who had been brave. She was thinking about Michael Collins, the farmer who had blocked the path of a Krell warrior. She was thinking about all the people who had died protecting the colony. "The Krell came as conquerors," James said. "But they left as students. They came to take. But they left having learned something about what it means to be human. That is a kind of victory that is greater than any military battle." In the months and years that followed, the colony of Kepler 442b became a symbol throughout human space. The story was told to children about the honey badger colony. The story was told about Emma Hayes, the 8-year-old girl who would not run when the beasts arrived. The galactic powers heard the story. Some of them learned respect for the small human species. Some of them learned fear. All of them learned not to underestimate humans. They learned that strength was not always about weapons or numbers. Strength was about will. Strength was about love. Strength was about a species willing to do anything to protect those they loved. Emma grew up to be a strategist and a teacher. She taught future generations of humans about how to think differently, how to see possibilities in seemingly impossible situations, how to find strength in compassion and family. But she never forgot the feeling of standing in the command center, listening to her father's voice on the radio, knowing that he was going to do something dangerous and heroic. She never forgot the moment when the Krell ships left the sky, and she never forgot that the greatest power in the universe belonged to those willing to stand up for the people they loved. The colony of Kepler 442b survived. The colony prospered. The colony became proof that humanity deserved a place among the stars. Not because humans were the strongest or the most advanced, but because humans were something more valuable than weapons or technology. Humans were capable of love that would not break even in the face of annihilation. Humans were capable of courage that came not from confidence in victory, but from commitment to those they loved. The honey badger had taught the galaxy what it meant to be human. And the galaxy would never forget.